So how's it going, guys? I just wanted to give you a sort of a sample of what I'm talking about when it comes to like this, speaking 3 to 5 minutes, whatever. So today I want to do my talk, and it's kind of crazy because I guess everything's going to be in reverse on do your homework from 2 Timothy 2:15. Um, None of us like homework. Let's be honest. Growing up, I hated homework just as much as anybody, but I had to do it, and I wish that doing my homework would have made me a lot smarter, but I guess if I hadn't done it, I'd be a lot dumber. So maybe it did work. Nonetheless, I am where I am because I did do my homework and I turned it in. I don't understand kids these days. Why they do homework and don't turn it in. It's like if you're going to do it, at least get the credit for it, right? So anyway, homework actually was started by this guy, Roberto Novellis. He was a teacher in Venice, and he was the first one to introduce homework. So we can thank him for this, I guess, horrible burden that we bear. Uh, Before then, homework didn't exist, but now it exists virtually, in every grade. Maybe not kindergarten, but they say that homework has actually been decreasing over the last several years. In fact, most parents think the kids have just enough homework these days, and that averages about an hour a day, give or take. So anyway, Paul tells Timothy in 2 Timothy 2:15 to study to show yourself approved, a workman who does not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And I took this from the modern English version because, as Matt was telling us last week, there's only two translations that use the word study, and this is the other one. The other one is King James. And so why do we need to study? I think he's telling Paul, or Paul is telling Timothy to study for a couple of reasons. In other words, he's really telling him to do his homework. And that is because he was being mentored by Paul, and Paul was like, look, man, I did my time. I've studied. You need to put in your time. The great thing is that Timothy got to learn from Paul by just living with Paul. I mean, he traveled with him all over the place. He was one of the missionaries, and his name is mentioned several times in the Scripture. In fact, Timothy's mentioned in 10 books of the Bible outside of the two that have his name on it. So, I mean, he was with Paul in a lot of different places, in a lot of different scenarios, and he saw Paul living out his faith. And so for Paul to be telling him, hey man, you got to study, this is a big deal. Timothy was a young pastor, maybe in his early 30s, when he became a pastor of a church in Ephesus. And Paul's admonition to him is, you've got to get your face in the book. Not on Facebook, but in the book, right? So he's telling Timothy to study because ministry's hard. Look at this. He says, as I urged you when you went to Macedonia, continue to remain at Ephesus so that you might command some to teach no other doctrine, nor pay attention to fables and endless genealogies, which causes debates rather than godly edifying, which is in faith. Now the goal of this command is love from a pure heart and from a good conscience and from sincere faith. From this, some have lost their way and turned aside. They've turned aside. He's telling them, look, keep your face in the book, not in Facebook. It would be amazing if we spent more time in the Scripture, or as much time in the Scripture as we do on social media. That'd probably change a lot of things. Another reason he's telling him to study is because dealing with people is just hard. There are a couple of guys that are mentioned here. He says, among them are Hymenaeus and Alexander, whom I've delivered to Satan, that they may learn not to blaspheme. Paul's telling Timothy, man, you've got to study the Word because dealing with people is going to be hard. Not only is dealing with people hard, I mean, ministry would be great if it weren't for the people, right? But he's telling him because life is going to be hard. And it's important to spend time in the Scripture because if you don't, you're not going to know how to exercise your faith. Paul tells us that for bodily exercise profits a little, but godliness is profitable to all things. We exercise our faith by studying. One of the things that we do, and I'm almost out of time here, is we have to show our work. When you do homework, you realize, man, my teacher wants to see the work. And that's how you've got to exercise your muscles. I can't believe it. 5 minutes went by that fast. So look at this. You see, when you do your homework, your teacher wants to see the work. Because if you don't show the work, they don't know that you did it. And so part of studying for us, it's important for us to show the work. So when we study, we act it out, we live it out, and other people can see, hey, this guy knows the scripture. He doesn't just know it intellectually. He's living it out. He's exercising his faith. All right, so you guys can see that keeping it at 5 minutes might be really, really challenging. I just kind of failed. But hey, I'm doing a talk this coming mission trip on epic failure. So maybe I can use this, all right? We'll see you guys tomorrow.